doTERRA created this course. This class is more than just a general overview. It's a deep dive into the science, history, and safe usage of oils. You'll learn exciting secrets that not everybody knows. Things like how a plant actually becomes an oil, or how contamination testing can tell you if an oil is pure. This course won't give you a degree in chemistry, but it will give you the confidence to talk about the chemistry of essential oils. You'll understand the science behind why they work and how to use them. Armed with a real understanding of essential oils, you can become part of something greater, a movement that is making the world a better place every single day. You can contribute. You are needed. And now is the perfect time to start. Join the journey to wellness and confidence as we unlock the secrets of the essential oil universe together, giving you everything you need to use these gifts from the earth with purpose and gain the ability to teach others to do the same. Welcome to the doTERRA Essential Oil Specialist Certification course. Your journey starts now. You've probably heard of essential oils, but did you know they're actually all around us? They can be found in everyday products you use, like perfumes and shampoos. They flavor candy and toothpaste. They're hidden in the zest of lemons, the needles of pine trees, and the petals of roses. Essential oils are the essence of a plant distilled into usable oil. Scientifically, essential oils are mixtures of natural chemicals that give plants their scents. We call those chemical molecules volatile aromatic compounds. Obviously, there are a lot of chemicals in, well, everything. So what makes volatile aromatic compounds different? It sounds complicated, but don't worry, the concept is simple. Volatile compounds are small organic molecules with distinct smells that easily change from their solid or liquid state to a gas at room temperature. This ability to quickly change to a gas gives an essential oil its powerful scent. When a bottle is opened, you can smell it almost immediately, thanks to the quick-moving molecules reaching your nose. Another quality of volatile aromatic compounds is their lipid-soluble or lipophilic. That means they dissolve in fats as opposed to water. Oil is a lipid, and you know oil and water don't mix no matter how hard you try, but oil will easily dissolve in other oils. Each essential oil is made up of various chemical constituents that give it a unique aroma and beneficial properties. There are a lot of different chemicals, and you're probably already familiar with some of them, like alcohols and esters. I'll go into more detail about this, but it's important to know that the chemical makeup of an essential oil is what gives the oil its benefits. For example, soothing and rejuvenating the skin, or providing feelings of clear airways. The chemical makeup of an essential oil is why it can affect your body so powerfully. Essential oils are extracted from plants, but not every plant produces an essential oil. Actually, Out of the enormous number of plant species on Earth, fewer than 5% are known to do so. So far, 17,500 aromatic plants have been investigated to see if they can produce essential oils. Of those plants, 2,000 are used to produce 3,000 different essential oils. That means some plants are used to produce multiple oils. For instance, coriander and cilantro, two favorite kitchen herbs, come from the same plant. They're two completely different essential oils from their smell to their chemical makeup. The difference is that coriander comes from the seed and cilantro from the leaf. Of these 3,000 essential oils, only 300 are commonly produced. Essential oils are quickly growing in popularity, so hopefully we'll see a wider variety make their mark in the future. You might be wondering why all plants don't produce essential oils. It takes a lot of energy for a plant to do it. Imagine having to sprint everywhere you go. So they only produce essential oils sparingly. Plants reserve production of essential oils for times when they're most needed, for defense, healing, and growth. Essential oils can be a defense mechanism against infections and predators like insects and animals. Plants release more aromatic compounds when their leaves or stems are damaged. This is designed to deter threats and prevent further damage, allowing the plant to heal. A plant also uses essential oils to communicate with other plants, slowing the growth of competing nearby species. This little trick is also called allelopathy. Another way essential oils help plants is by attracting pollinators like bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. Other animals are drawn to the plant and help disperse seeds. You inadvertently contribute to this when you carry burrs home on your socks after a hike. Not all plants will produce the same amount of essential oil. You can experience this for yourself. When you say, squeeze an orange peel, enough oil is released to coat your hand, but crushing a peppermint leaf only results in a small amount. This is called yield. You can calculate yield by looking at the amount of oil produced compared to the amount of the original plant material. Rose, for example, is considered a low-yield essential oil. It can take around 10,000 blossoms to produce a 5-milliliter bottle of rose oil. On the other hand, sandalwood is a high-yield oil. It only takes around a quarter pound of sandalwood to make a 5-milliliter bottle. Yield can vary, even within the same species. A rose bush in one environment will produce more oil than another, depending on things like climate, predators, and pollination. Did you know that crude forms of essential oils have been used for thousands of years? Archaeologists have found evidence of the use of these essential oil forerunners in many ancient societies. We don't know exactly which culture was the first to use them, but records indicate it could have been the Egyptians, Chinese, or Indus civilizations. Throughout history, people all over the world have utilized the power of plant extracts for things like health practices, religious ceremonies, cultural rituals, and food. Essential oil plant material like frankincense resin was even used as a form of currency at certain times. One of their most famous uses was as a perfume. If you ever want to smell like Cleopatra, a safe bet would be rose, myrrh, and cardamom, or cinnamon, as these scents were popular in ancient Egypt. Egyptian, Indus, Chinese, and Greek civilizations all contributed to what we now know about the powerful uses of essential oils. When I think of Egypt, tombs and mummies are some of the first things that come to mind. Burial traditions in Egyptian culture were of the utmost importance. The Egyptians observed specific rituals and sought to give as many luxuries to the deceased as they could afford. Researchers have found that one such luxury was precious plant extracts. Aromatic residues have been found in unearthed jars in Egyptian tombs, as well as on actual mummies. The walls of Egyptian temples are decorated with images depicting the use of potent plant extracts. Historical records suggest that Egyptian healers also recommended them for health purposes. Indus civilizations, in the area where India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan are today, also left behind clues of plant use. The people of this era were some of the first to attempt their own method of extracting essential oils from plants. Archaeologists have found a rudimentary invention made of terracotta pottery that they believe was used to create early plant extracts around 3000 BC. Keep in mind that this would have been roughly the time when humans first developed writing, before the Old Kingdom of Egypt was founded, and when Stonehenge was being built. More than 1,000 years later, Indus civilization still used plant extracts for various purposes. Cinnamon, ginger, myrrh, sandalwood, and coriander extracts are listed in an ancient Indian book of plant uses called the Vedas. From the Vedas, the ancient tradition of Ayurvedic medicine was born. This practice continues to this day. Between 500 and 1300 AD, China was a leading world power with advances in science and technology far ahead of any other civilization of the time. They conducted extensive research leading to many advances in the usage of plants. For example, references to aromatic plants are in the widely read and highly influential book, Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine. Some believe this guide was originally written about 2600 BC. Protocols based on experiences and research done in ancient China have been passed down through generations and still influence modern healthcare to this day. Historical accounts suggest ancient Greek physicians Hippocrates, Theophrastus, Dioscorides, and Galen each used the aromatic power of plants for health solutions. The Romans famously employed Greek physicians at the Colosseum, where they used plant extracts when performing surgeries on injured gladiators. The research of these physicians influenced many health practices throughout Greek culture. Though basic forms of essential oils and aromatics were used for thousands of years, it was quite some time before modern essential oils emerged. We had to wait until the late 10th to early 11th century before true essential oil distillation was developed by a Persian physician and alchemist named Avicenna. His compiled writings, the Canon of Medicine, list the use of hundreds of plants, including plant distillations, for wellness. His book was so renowned that people were still reading it 900 years later. In 1913, one physician called it the most famous medical textbook ever written. We owe a lot to Avicenna for giving us what we know now as essential oils. More developments in essential oil science followed. During the 13th century, the Spanish physician Arnaldus de Villanova distilled rosemary, spike lavender, juniper, clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, and anise for various purposes. From the 15th to the 20th century, European scientists distilled, analyzed, and recorded the properties of essential oils. This systematic analysis of essential oils was critical in paving the way for them to become valuable therapeutic solutions. René Marie Gattefossé, a French chemist, is credited as the first to coin the term aromatherapy. He studied and researched essential oils in the 1800s. If you've ever read about the history of essential oils, you've probably heard the story of Gattefossé, realizing the usefulness of lavender essence after an incident in his lab one day. Ancient civilizations first made the case for essential oils and plant-based therapeutic practices from China to Egypt. The people of these early cultures created a foundation that scientists and physicians later built upon. Our scientific understanding of essential oils has come a long way since then. There are now thousands of peer-reviewed studies that contribute to our understanding and use of essential oils. The 21st century has brought essential oils out of fringe groups and into popular society, perpetuating their study. With advancements in technology and years of research, we can finally tap into the full power of essential oils. The process of turning a plant into an essential oil is called extraction. Effectively separating an essential oil from its plant part is not quite as simple as squeezing an orange peel in your hand or crushing a mint leaf. The extraction of essential oils from plants is as much an art as a science. Yes, you need the right equipment and good plant material to work with, but even with the best equipment and plant materials in the world, a great deal of love and care is required to produce a high-quality essential oil. Extracting essential oils is more than just throwing a plant into a machine and getting an oil at the end. This delicate process begins the moment a farmer holds the lavender seeds in her hand. She knows the best time to plant, the perfect soil conditions for the growing seedlings, and the ideal moment to harvest. When she delivers her lavender harvest to the distiller, it enters the next phase in its transformation. The most common extraction method is distillation. This one can get pretty sciencey, but it'll make sense by the end. Distillation is a process that involves separating a substance into its constituent parts based on their boiling points or volatility. Okay, let's break that down. Remember how we talked about volatile aromatic compounds earlier? This is what we're trying to get out of the plant. We want those little molecules that give plants their aroma. When the leaf, flower, root, or bark is exposed to high temperatures, the aromatic molecules hidden inside of it are released. And because they're volatile, they quickly change to their gaseous state. The tricky thing is that each constituent boils at a different temperature. If you don't carefully control the temperature of the machinery, you'll miss out on some of the important chemical constituents in the plant. Go too high, and you'll accidentally create a chemical reaction that ruins the natural chemistry of the essential oil. A good distiller knows exactly how to get all of the compounds out without altering them, giving the finished essential oil its potent benefits. You can distill oils in a few different ways. The most common method is steam distillation because it yields exceptionally pure and clean products. So, how exactly does it work? It starts by suspending the plant matter above boiling water. The steam forces its way through the plant material and breaks the small glands that hold the essential oil. Once released, the essential oil is carried up by the steam into a tube where it cools and condenses. Think of the lid on a boiling pot. Steam cools and condenses into liquid droplets. It's the same with essential oils. The now liquid essential oil and condensed steam drips down into a collection container where it separates, ready for the distiller to bottle it up. Usually the essential oil rises to the top of the separator and the water sinks to the bottom, though some oils like clove, cinnamon, and wintergreen are heavier than water and will separate to the bottom. Steam distillation is a delicate and time-intensive process. It involves a pressurized system, which allows essential oils to be extracted at temperatures well below their normal boiling point. This protects the integrity of their delicate and complex chemical profiles. Remember what I said about accidentally creating chemical reactions? When steam distilling, the temperature of the system must remain within a strict range. Optimal temperatures usually fall between 140 degrees Fahrenheit and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. If the temperature is too low, the essential oils aren't extracted efficiently. This is less than ideal because you'd miss out on some of the important chemical compounds that make an oil powerful. Too high of temperature risks damaging the essential oils or extracting unwanted compounds. When we don't adhere to these strict temperature guidelines, a lot can go wrong. Some compounds are particularly heat sensitive, also known as thermolable. When compounds that are heat sensitive are exposed to high temperatures, they may be destroyed. This is called thermal degradation. Or if the compounds aren't destroyed, there's still a chance they could be molecularly modified and transformed into something else. There are also occurrences where the compounds are broken down because of a reaction within the heated water. Scientists refer to this as hydrolysis. Finally, at high temperatures, there's also a risk that compounds will be completely lost because they turn into a vapor, which is known as volatilization. For example, lavender is primarily made up of two compounds, linylyl acetate and linalool. Excess heat during distillation can convert some of the linylyl acetate into linalool. Similarly, furanodine, one of the compounds in myrrh essential oil, can be transformed into curzarine if excess heat is used during steam distillation. While some extra linalool or curzarine may not seem like a problem, the oil no longer represents the original chemical composition of the plant, which will potentially change the essential oil's effectiveness. Poor temperature control changes the chemical makeup of the oil, which can significantly influence therapeutic value. In other words, if heat isn't controlled properly during this process, you'll end up with a low-quality oil that has lost some of its benefits. Equally as important as temperature, pressure must be strictly controlled. Increasing the pressure of the distillation system can significantly reduce the distillation time by up to 1/4 if a pressurized system is used. If you want to introduce pressure to steam distillation, you need a closed system. This means your whole distillation system has to be pressurized to a level that is higher than the normal air around you. Enough pressure must be applied to the plant material to soften plant cells and allow the essential oil to escape in vapor form. Too little pressure and the precious volatile molecules are not released, yet too high pressure and the plant material is destroyed or the essential oil modified. The required pressure varies from plant to plant, but typically falls between 15 pounds per square inch and 20 psi. Car tire pressure as a reference usually falls between 30 and 35 psi. In addition to pressure and temperature, distillation time is also important. Each plant is unique, requiring anywhere from just a few hours to more than an entire day to fully distill. Wood oils typically have the longest distillation times, requiring up to 36 hours or more to fully distill. Lavender, on the other hand, can be distilled in just 2 hours. After the steam distillation process is complete, what happens to all of the water that was used? Well, the leftover water is called hydrosol, hydrolat, or floral water. You may have heard of rose water. While it may not sound as lovely, the more accurate term would be rose hydrosol. Many companies will quite happily call any product that's a blend of essential oils and water a floral water. So you'll want to confirm that what you're buying is truly hydrosol. Hydrosols contain bits of plant material, even small amounts of aromatic compounds. A liter of hydrosol typically contains between 0.05 milliliters and 0.2 milliliters of essential oil, which is between 1 to 4 drops. Hydrosols have therapeutic value, but aren't nearly as potent as essential oils. Their most common uses is in skincare products due to their toning, hydrating, restorative, and soothing properties. Now, back to different types of distillation. Let's talk about hydrodistillation next. Though often confused with steam distillation, hydrodistillation does differ slightly. Sometimes called water distillation, hydrodistillation involves putting the plant material in boiling water rather than above it. An important distinction. To keep the plant matter from settling on the bottom and burning, it's swirled around constantly. The rest of the process is similar to steam distillation, with the steam carrying the essential oil out of the plant matter and up into the condenser. Hydrodistillation is used to extract essential oils like frankincense and myrrh because these oils are derived from resin. Since steam distillation doesn't effectively penetrate the hard resin chunks from a frankincense or myrrh tree, they require something a little more intense than steam to distill the essential oils. Knowing the best method to extract the key volatile molecules is important for producing the highest quality essential oils. For example, even though steam distillation and hydrodistillation are similar, they can produce very different essential oils from the same material. Plant material can be distilled in two distinct ways, and the end product will have different ratios of aromatic compounds. For instance, one study comparing steam distilled and hydrodistilled thyme essential oil found that steam distillation extracted greater amounts of thymol and carvacrol, two important molecules for the therapeutic value. Before we leave the topic of distillation, we should talk about multiple or fractional distillations. During fractional distillation, fractions of the essential oil are removed throughout the process. What's the benefit of this? Taking out fractions or portions of an essential oil as it is distilled allows the distiller to isolate specific properties of the oil. This is possible because essential oil compounds evaporate at different rates, making each fraction or portion of the oil chemically different. This type of distillation is typically used for specific purposes, like for, say, creating perfumes. Ylang-ylang is an essential oil that's sometimes fractionally distilled. It undergoes a lengthy distillation of about 24 hours, where fractions of the essential oil are removed at specific times throughout the process. During the first hour of distillation, a fraction of ylang-ylang essential oil is removed from the batch. This fraction is called ylang-ylang extra or ylang-ylang super. Ylang-ylang extra is most commonly used for high-class perfumes because it has the most coveted aroma. As the distillation process continues, another fraction is removed between the second and third hour. This fraction is called ylang-ylang 1, and it is also frequently used for perfumes. As you might have guessed, the next fraction, removed between the third and fifth hour, is called ylang-ylang 2. Fractions 1 and 2 are often used in cosmetics, soaps, and detergents. The fraction of oil removed between hour 8 and 24 is called ylang-ylang 3. Ylang-ylang oil that comes from an uninterrupted distillation or the entire 24 hours is called ylang-ylang complete. Ylang-ylang complete contains all of the previously described fractions of extra, 1, 2, and 3, and is considered ideal for therapeutic use because of its well-rounded chemical profile and rich sesquiterpene content. Now, remember the word sesquiterpene because you'll learn more about that later. Did I mention there are a lot of ways to extract essential oils? This next method is called expression. It's mostly used for citrus oils and is pretty straightforward. You take, for example, an orange and put it through a machine that squeezes out the essential oil from the peel. Unlike steam distillation, expression doesn't need heat. That's why you'll often hear it called cold pressing. Let's imagine life hands you lemons and you want to make lemonade. No, actually, lemon essential oil. The first step is putting the lemon into the expression machinery. It's rolled across cylinders that pierce the peel and break the small sacs where the essential oil is contained. Then you spray the fruit with water, which washes the essential oil out into a container. What you get is essential oil mixed with particles from the rind. To separate the essential oil, you filter and centrifuge the oily mixture, and voila, you have lemon essential oil. Expression produces potent essential oils that smell nearly identical to the fruit. It's no wonder that everyone loves citrus oils. Honestly, they smell fantastic. Expression is the most common method for extracting citrus essential oils, but you can steam distill citrus fruit too. You'll get a slightly different oil when you do. Because expression is a physical process, it can extract heavier compounds along with the aromatic molecules. When you compare expressed orange oil with a distilled orange oil, the expressed oil will be a light orange in hue because it contains some orange pigment. The distilled orange oil, on the other hand, will be clear. In general, steam distilled citrus oils smell slightly sweeter than the tart cold-pressed citrus oils. Expressed essential oils can also have some minor chemical differences from their distilled versions. For example, distilled bergamot essential oil usually contains less linalool acetate and more linalool than expressed bergamot. This is because some of the linalool acetate in steam distilled bergamot oil is exposed to heat and converted to linalool. Another difference between cold-pressed and steam-distilled citrus oils is the presence of pheranocoumarins. Say that 10 times fast. No, thank you. In expressed essential oils like lemon and bergamot. Pheranocoumarins are a type of chemical constituent that reacts with ultraviolet rays. They're found in trace amounts in some expressed citrus oils. Distilled citrus oils generally don't contain pheranocoumarins because they are some of those heavier molecules I mentioned that don't come through in distillation. You should be mindful of using cold-pressed oils topically, especially bergamot, and then exposing your skin to UV light, whether from the sun or a tanning bed. When these chemicals are present on the skin and exposed to UV light, a chemical reaction takes place and causes the skin to be photosensitive, which means it'll be extra sensitive to the light. This can result in a sunburn, discoloration, or even blistering of the skin. While we'd all love to be smelling of sweet citrus in the summer sun, it's better to play it safe and only apply citrus oils to your skin at night when you know you won't be going into the sunlight for at least 12 hours. One final thing about expressed citrus oils is that they're a zero-waste product. Citrus oil is frequently a byproduct of the juice or food industry. Millions and millions of pounds of fruit are grown to create fruit juices, but only the flesh of the fruit is needed for juice. Many of these companies cold press the leftover rinds to make citrus essential oils. After the process is complete, the excess rinds and pulp usually become fertilizer or help feed cattle. Every bit of citrus fruit is used, and in the end, you get at least 3 useful products: the juice or fruit itself, and the essential oil that comes from the rinds, and the leftovers for fertilizer or feed. No waste is a way of thanking Mother Earth for her gifts. Steam distillation, hydrodistillation, and cold pressing are the most common ways of extracting essential oils, but there are some less common ones, like solvent, carbon dioxide, and enfleurage. Let's take a quick look at these specific methods. While solvent extraction can be used on most plant materials, it is most often used for delicate plant materials like flowers that cannot otherwise endure the conditions required for steam distillation. What's a solvent, you may ask? It's a substance that can dissolve other substances. Some examples of solvents are alcohol, methanol, and ethanol. With solvent extraction, plant materials are placed in a shallow tray and washed with the solvent. This breaks the essential oil out of the plant. You then filter it to remove the plant material. The result is a waxy substance called a concrete. The concrete is further processed with another solvent, usually ethanol. Next, you need to reduce the pressure in the equipment to allow the solvent to evaporate. What's left is something called an absolute. Essential oils are volatile aromatic compounds extracted from a plant. Absolutes are similar to essential oils, but they are obtained through a different process. Jasmine is a great example. Technically speaking, what you may know as jasmine essential oil is actually jasmine absolute. Most essential oils are produced through steam distillation or cold press expression methods, but jasmine absolute is produced by solvent extraction. Absolutes are different from essential oils because they usually contain both aromatic and non-aromatic compounds. The easiest way to think of an absolute is that it's aromatic molecules extracted using a solvent, where some of the solvent remains in the end product. Another uncommon extraction method is carbon dioxide, or CO2 extraction. This process of using carbon dioxide is also called supercritical fluid extraction. CO2 has the unique ability of reaching a supercritical state, meaning it possesses the properties of both a gas and liquid simultaneously, at relatively low temperatures and pressures. This is useful to preserve the important volatile molecules that are more sensitive to heat. Before we go into the science of this process, I just want to quickly tell you why CO2 extraction is cool. It's really clean. It doesn't leave solvent residue in the essential oil. It protects the chemical structure of volatile compounds, preventing them from changing during the extraction process. No more turning linalool acetate into linalool. You have better control of extracting the aromatic compounds, so you can get heavier molecules that otherwise might be left out, like diterpenes in frankincense. It produces a highly concentrated essential oil that smells like the original plant material. So, with CO2 extraction, you get cleaner, more complex essential oils that are closer to the plant's natural composition. The equipment for this type of extraction is expensive, but the overall process is pretty fast and efficient and often produces higher yields than steam distillation. Now, here's how it works. First, the CO2 is heated and pressurized, which turns it into an excellent solvent. Next, you put the liquid CO2 in with the plant material. This pulls out the essential oil and you can get rid of the now oilless plant material. Once the plant material is filtered out of the mixture, the heat and pressure are turned off. When that happens, the CO2 turns back into a gas, evaporates out of the oil, and is captured to use in the next batch. The result? The pure essence of the plant in a bottle. The last extraction technique I'll talk about is enfleurage. This is one of the oldest methods we know of. It was used to extract aromatic compounds before distillation was even invented. Imagine Cleopatra's perfumer extracting rose oil for her to use. This is how he did it. He used lard. Okay, that's a little simplistic. There's actually interesting science behind it. Enfleurage really highlights the lipid-soluble nature of volatile aromatic compounds. You'll remember that if something is lipid-soluble, that means it dissolves in fats. With enfleurage, the plant material is crushed and pressed into animal or vegetable fat. The lipid-soluble compounds, that's to say the essential oil, of the plant dissolve into the fat. After you press the plant materials, you're left with a greasy, waxy mixture called an enfleurage pomade. Sounds nice, right? The pomade is then further processed with the solvent, usually hexane, to separate the fat from the essential oil. The finishing touch is washing the product a second time, typically with alcohol. In the end, you're left with an absolute, but not really a clean one. Enfleurage produces impure products, so it's not considered an acceptable method for producing therapeutic-grade botanical extracts. While enfleurage is historically important, there are so many ways of extracting essential oils that are way more efficient. So it's not that relevant today. The last extraction technique I'll talk about is enfleurage. This is one of the oldest methods we know of. It was used to extract aromatic compounds before distillation was even invented. Imagine Cleopatra's perfumer extracting rose oil for her to use. This is how he did it. He used lard. Okay, that's a little simplistic. There's actually interesting science behind it. Enfleurage really highlights the lipid-soluble nature of volatile aromatic compounds. You'll remember that if something is lipid-soluble, that means it dissolves in fats. With enfleurage, the plant material is crushed and pressed into animal or vegetable fat. The lipid-soluble compounds, that's to say the essential oil, of the plant dissolve into the fat. After you press the plant materials, you're left with a greasy, waxy mixture called an enfleurage pomade. Sounds nice, right? The pomade is then further processed with the solvent, usually hexane, to separate the fat from the essential oil. The finishing touch is washing the product a second time, typically with alcohol. In the end, you're left with an absolute, but not really a clean one. Enfleurage produces impure products, so it's not considered an acceptable method for producing therapeutic-grade botanical extracts. While enfleurage is historically important, there are so many ways of extracting essential oils that are way more efficient. So it's not that relevant today. So which extraction method is the best? Well, it really depends on what outcome you're looking for. If you're trying to obtain essential oils for fragrance purposes, then absolutes, expression, and CO2 essential oils produce the most authentic aromas. But when it comes to therapeutic grade essential oils, having the optimal ratio of key volatile molecules is what matters. To determine the best method for producing the right ratio of aromatic compounds, you can compare different methods of extraction on the same batch of plant material. You probably don't have the time to do this, so we took a batch of roses and did it for you. Another big thing to consider is pesticides. If the plant matter was sprayed with pesticides, the solvents tend to carry and concentrate those pesticides into the end product. Obviously, not a good thing. If you're using a solvent extraction method, including CO2, you have to make sure the plant matter is pesticide-free. In the end, qualified scientists and health professionals need to carefully evaluate and compare the various extraction methods for each plant to determine the preferred extraction method. Going the extra mile to do this maximizes the efficacy of the essential oils produced, so you can expect consistent and reliable results.
Bueno, ahorita terminamos la unidad 1. La verdad me ha encantado. Sé que todos están aprendiendo un montón. Yo también siento que aprendí un montón. Y vamos a dejarlo por ahora y ya. Mañana empezamos con la unidad 2. Entonces, bueno, pues les deseo que sigan aprendiendo. Si es que quieren revisar, yo quiero revisar algunos temas, entonces voy a verme la grabación varias veces. Y eso, si es que quieren tener la certificación, les voy a pasar el link para que ustedes mismos puedan ingresar y certificarse, ¿no? O sea, entrar al programa y estudiar en su tiempo, revisar, hacer los cuestionarios, etcétera, ¿ok? Eso, que tengan un lindo día. Me encanta haber compartido con todos ustedes. Hay un montón de gente conectada, 49 personas ahorita, estábamos como 56. Entonces, qué lindo que haya tanta gente que quiere aprender y que tiene el deseo, ¿no? Y esa es la intención, que todos podamos aprender juntos y que todos podamos crecer juntos en esta bella, no sé, proyecto de vida que es Doterra, ¿no? Mejorar la calidad de vida nuestra y de nuestros seres queridos. Entonces, nos vemos mañana a la misma hora, a las 3 de la tarde. Que tengan un lindo día y estamos en contacto. Adiós.